This year has been full of the highest highs and the lowest lows of my life, and I see so many women around afraid to speak, especially right now, afraid to share their experiences, and fear is by design. It's what keeps us silent. But I also acknowledge that many people don't have the opportunity to speak, so I do feel fortunate that I've been able to. And it's the women who have had the ability to use their voice that's kept me strong and you know, to me in my belief and my fight for the world to be safer for women and girls. It's a pretty simple thing.
Let's talk, because Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are playing deflection this morning, and they're having their lawyer speak on the record to People magazine. And I just have to preface this by saying, if you're a hard-hitting journalist, you don't write for People magazine, okay? If you're a hard-nosed journalist who's going to push back and not accept PR and not play the PR game, you're not going to go to People magazine for an actual interview. People magazine is a puff magazine that's celebrity-friendly, that doesn't push back, that doesn't do investigative journalism, and literally just regurgitates whatever the narrative is that celebrities want you to know. That's the truth about People magazine, in my opinion. But they do have a bit of a reason today for deflection, and that's the reality that there is actual genuine harm that's being caused on Wayfair's side, such as real-life people are getting hurt, and people have been arrested, and Steve Sorowitz's family has been assaulted, and other people on the Wayfair side are having major issues because of what Blake and Ryan have done, and the outrage and all of the people that they have gotten to believe that Justin and his side are dangerous, which is insane. But because news is starting to break about what is happening to them, they are coming to People to go on record to provide a clear, first-time ever interview. And in the piece, Michael Gotadl, who they refer to, Mike states that you are aware that Blake will testify. The optimal time for a plaintiff's story to be heard is at trial. We expect that to be so here in Lively, so we would expect naturally for her to be a witness at her trial. She will testify. They are also letting them know that you know that they in fact do have other witnesses who are going to testify they did see misconduct consistent with Miss Lively's complaint, but they will not name them. We expect their testimony, particularly about what transpired on set, to come through live witness testimony. So, in the case of live witness testimony, it is never easy, because in cases like this, so many times it ends up being he said, she said, and hearsay is a whole different topic too. So if someone does go up to the witness stand, they get to only discuss their own account. They are not able to discuss what they overheard people say. So the witnesses can only state what they've seen or heard, and much of what I believe is going to be found out during discovery on this case is ferreting out against the Baldoni parties by the Wayfair folks, the Lively side people who've got Ryan and Blake love-bombed and played. Are they testifying because it actually happened, or because they're being offered something? That's a big part of what the discovery process will be. He says she'll depose. They're going to defend, they're going to depose as well. They're going to rely on evidence based on documents and testimony from producers, Sony Pictures, and other witnesses. And then they go on to say that the public debate surrounding the case has diverged from the substance of the case. We think there has been a lot of distractions that have been created to deflect attention from the campaign of retaliation waged against her. And we look forward and expect in discovery to have an opportunity to really hone in on what we see as the essence of the case, which is that the campaign of retaliation was waged against Miss Lively because she complained of sexual harassment. He also believes that Ryan Reynolds is probably not going to testify, and he sincerely states that he believes it's frivolous. The suit against Reynolds is frivolous, so he might or might not be a fact witness. May or may not be a fact witness. A lot of that just kind of feels to me like they're really just trying to get in from a public PR side to say that Ryan isn't the issue here because they still need to save Ryan's brand, and he has movies coming out next fall with Sony, and as for subpoenas, their word is this: it's completely unclear what defenses or claims in the case any of these celebrities have anything to do with whatsoever. This is a case about what happened to Blake Lively when she alleged sexual harassment on that set. It is not a case about how songs were chosen for the movie. It's not about the comic book Marvel characters in Deadpool movies. You have to pose the questions, so why are those people being subpoenaed? Do they have a legitimate impact on the case at issue? You can't subpoena people willy-nilly because they're famous and you expect it will be a big news story, and the federal courts don't tolerate that kind of garbage. So what he's doing here is he's trying to suggest that Taylor Swift being subpoenaed is being done just for the sake of making headlines and trying to generate headlines and trying to mimic Taylor Swift has nothing relevant to offer towards the case. Gottlieb is specifically sidetracking from the claims that Baldoni has raised against them, and he's quite trying to make it single and regarding just Blake's case because in their view, only their case counts and not frivolous. And he's going after Marvel as well and telling Marvel they shouldn't be going after Marvel because of an imaginary movie character, and federal courts do not hold with that kind of thing. What is also interesting is that this comes after they are already accused of issuing a sham subpoena. So what he is trying to do here, at least in my opinion, is Blake has already been caught, completely busted with the sham subpoena, with the sham lawsuit, abusing the legal process and the abusive process, and they are trying now to change up this narrative that they are the ones who abused the subpoena process. It was actually Wayfair subpoenaing Taylor Swift over her participation and involvement in the theft of a movie, and subpoenaing her through a valid lawsuit that has actual claims somehow being abusive in federal court. But if already the federal court has approved the subpoena, there is already a judge who is involved in the subpoena, so him acting like they are not going to tolerate it, this and going around complaining about it in the media too, he's a hypocrite. Both sides are doing lawyer with a PR spin. Both groups of attorneys are trying to win over the public on their behalf and simultaneously trying to defend their people and defend their clients. But it's completely unethical to say they're only bringing out a subpoena for headlines because Taylor Swift's name is literally on the court papers, and there is a so-called incident that occurred at the penthouse in question, and Blake is threatening to call her a dragon. So Brian Friedman responded and said, "While clearly uncomfortable for the Lively parties, the truth is not distraction. The truth has been plainly demonstrated through unedited receipts, documents, and real-life footage. More to come." Blake was the one who introduced her high-profile friends into the equation without regard for their own personal or public backlash. As the truth knows, she used her dragons to manipulate Justin at every turn. And they also suggested that Ryan's conduct is well documented, and we continue to find more reckless disregard. Was Disney aware that Ryan was using shareholder revenues to further a personal grudge? I would be surprised to learn that this sort of corporate extravagance would not lead to much more exposure for those who have been complicit in affecting shareholder revenue. Now, he reassured that it's not going to turn into a circus, although already a circus. We're not expecting the case turning into a circus of parading every celebrity who might have ever had some conversation with Blake or Ryan, or likewise from every celebrity who might have ever had some conversation with Justin Baldoni or Steve Sorrow. I think what Blake and Ryan are doing here is they've gotten some of their celebrity friends to publicly distance themselves from them, unfollow them, and I think it's actually them trying to get ahead of it, like, no, we're not going to include our friends here even though their friends have already been included, and Brian Friedman, he's all right, but he does do his own fair share of deflection. I don't know about the Disney and the shareholder revenue, and misappropriating corporate waste. Spending funds on something other than what it's intended to be spent on is what he's saying, and that Disney is allowing the use of shareholder income since they're a public company to harass someone, and that's something that shareholders could potentially take against Disney in court, is sort of the implication here. Misappropriation of shareholder funds, so I think Disney is complicit. I mean, they are, but that's a story for another day. So what we're hearing in this PR, let's be clear here, is deflection, okay? So deflection is turning aside or changing the directions, right? It's diverting blame or avoiding responsibility, and so they're diverting the blame on the subpoenas to abusing the court system to subpoena Taylor Swift. They're trying to dodge responsibility and accountability for inserting their own friends into the case by then turning it back on, "I can't believe you're going to subpoena the friends I inserted into it," which is why he says Ryan Friedman responds is, "Well, if you didn't want her to be involved, you shouldn't have brought her in, but you did." And he is right. The truth is not a distraction. Now, why would they be coming up to deflect from this kind of thing? Why are they going to attempt to change the headlines like that? Well, because Taylor Swift got subpoenaed last week. Last week, Travis Kelce unfollowed. We're hearing Gigi Hadid and Bradley Cooper cutting ties. You've got all these people in their circles that don't want anything to do with them. The sole person who appears to be sticking with them through thick and thin is Hugh Jackman and whoever else they can bribe. But the truth that's actually they're trying to get out in front of by releasing this, because whenever Blake goes on record saying something, it will pull a million other sources to run exactly the same story. So all of them will piggyback off of this People magazine article to then go and run their own headline without doing the work. Not what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is not regurgitating. I'm actually going below that surface level response and telling you why they might be doing this. So the Daily Mail yesterday reported that Baldoni and his PR team are getting horrific death threats and confidential health leaks as the legal battle with Blake Lively rages on. And this comes on May 7th. Highland Park prosecutors in Lake County, Illinois, say that a suspect torched the Highland Park home of billionaire Steve Sarowitz and then threatened to abduct Steve's daughter unless he paid $80,000 in cash, and they sent text messages referencing Blake Lively's name. The assistant state attorney for the county, Dino Catrice, said that a trash can was burned in a driveway at a home. I'm not publishing the address, and it was on April 28th. The can was filled with paint cans and other combustible accelerants, and it was burned to the ground and destroyed the lawn of Holmes' lawn. It mentions that the couple also has a production company, which is engaged in an ongoing legal battle with Blake Lively and other Hollywood celebrities. Catrice, the drama involved in this Hollywood debacle, has attracted considerable media attention, and on the same day of the arson attack at the house, the wife, Steve's wife, had been sent a text message from an unfamiliar phone number demanding that they send the kidnap ransom demand unless they sent them $80,000 in non-sequential unmarked banknotes. They also mentioned that the garbage bin on their property was set ablaze, and that was just a warning of more destruction if their demands were not met. It reports that this is a text message she received. If you don't comply, we will hold your daughter's name hostage, and she won't graduate. At that time, we will ask for more money, and if you people are willing to spend $100 million to ruin the lives of Miss Lively and her family, we're sure you can spend a few for your daughter. A day after, more text messages were being sent to the family's daughter. Okay, Miss Honorable, we know that you are at blah, the address. You people aren't untouchable. You can post a night guard or whatever, and that still won't stop us. We're willing to ruin all of your lives over this little sum of money. The next fire we'll set will be from the inside out, and then another text message sent to the daughter and the mother. We gave you people time to consider our offer. Remember, no one is untouchable, not even you people. You can post a guard at night, you can leave lights on, you can bring more security, and we'll still manage. Get it? We took steps to stay hidden, and we are willing to ruin all of your lives. We're not asking millions, only $80,000. That's nothing to you people. We can do this the hard way, or nobody needs to know. All you people have to do is drop off the money at a public location, and we vanish. Simple as that. The next fire will be from the inside out, or maybe we'll go into your daughter's room, amputate a man's leg, and he can still feel it tickling. Tell us when your little girl is on the slab, where will it tickle you? So the FBI collaborated with the Highland Park Police Department to utilize technology, warrants to identify the sender's phone number and where it was being sent, and they found that it was being sent from the public library, and then they watched surveillance footage from the library, and a guy by the name of Eduardo Aragon, 25, was coming and going into the library at that time, and he confessed to being the one who started the property. He offered to go into the library and send the messages over Wi-Fi and pay $80,000, not to kidnap the daughter of the family. He said he had not worked for 2 years and needed the cash. He was indicted on charges of arson, 6 counts of intimidation, and 1 count of harassment. It reads, "The defendant is dangerous. Arson on the residential home of the family at night is dangerous. Fires are uncontrollable and will spread very fast. This would be carried out on a residential home at night when the family and their caregivers would be asleep. The defendant was proactive and had the means and sophistication to find the phone numbers of these relatives, and then tried to cover his tracks by using internet phone apps and public Wi-Fi so he could not be traced. It's like an untraceable smear campaign, But it went live. The defendant went to great lengths to terrorize this family and has succeeded in placing them in a perpetual state of fear for their safety. So he was there wishing to have him not taken away, not released on bond. So that broke yesterday, and then Blake's attorneys went on record this morning. That is no accident. And last night, they've had the Daily Mail interview a person. I do not know his PR company, and he and they are also going through getting atrocious death threats at this time. So sources close to Baldoni reported to Daily Mail that Baldoni and some of the agency group's employees started by Nathan received death threats after the lawsuit. HR reports filed by lawyers for Lively also include the addresses of some of the publicists in the vicious battle and have them intimidated for their families. One employee of TAG has been forced to build a fence to get to her property in fear that her family will be attacked. I've had to notify my child's school that we've had official death threats. We've even had to build a security gate because the court filings effectively doxed us. They shared an email that was sent to Jen Ale that reads, "You are literally one of the evilest people in the world. Terrorist evil. Your Blake Lively campaign is on par with something you'd see coming from Trump and his decouples. I recognize that being called a public relations terrorist is probably sending you into a mild. It's not meant to be a compliment. One can only hope that you have the worst Christmas and that Hollywood knows that you are the Hitler of publicists. Your response was an insult to any human with any shred of intelligence and the equivalent of ramblings by a junior PR student. It was the banter of people. You did nothing that could be expected by an average amateur in the business. The only hope is the studios treat you like the scum and flesh-eating, disgusting abomination that you are and cancel you." A source also told them that one woman has 2 small children under 4 and is feared going outside her house due to the sheer number of threats received that's been posted across social media, and we've got people threatening to harm anyone working for the company and their families. So private home addresses have been leaked in the court documents, which have been pushed by Lively's team. It's then been shared on social media, and we have people threatening to harm anyone who works for the company and their families. What they're doing to the private people through their actions has caused despicable situations. Some of the threats Daily Mail received name Nathan and Abel the Hitler of publicists. One of them, "I hope you effing die." There was a message to Melissa Nathan. That one I think actually was part of their lawsuits. They are from December, and the majority of them have been anti-Semitic. Another one uttered, "I'm going to love watching you get destroyed," with another saying, "I hope your life is awful. I hope you feel the worst pain ever." There has been a wave of anti-Semitism directed against the group, with another employee worrying about the safety of her elderly parents whom she cares for, and then Illinois prosecutors last week revealed a suspect who had burned down Steve Sarawitz's family home. After threatening to kidnap their daughter if they did not hand over $80,000 in cash, so they go on to explain what I just told you about arson suspect. So here's the dirty, dirty truth about what Blake and Ryan are doing. Blake and Ryan went to the court and demanded like this wide protective order and wanted no addresses to be allowed, and they should be kept confidential and all third-party information and all location information. But this was after they filed into the public record the execution of summonses for the people in which they sued. Okay? And in federal court, you need to, for proper service, they have to put in the sub-summons so it shows that they've been properly served, but the federal court system allows you to redact the address from the public record if there's concerns about privacy or safety. So Blake and Ryan are concerned about their privacy and their safety. They don't want their address to be released to the public. They had an opportunity in court to file the summons return, that it was properly served by saying the person was properly served, without including the address and just redacting that from the public, but then giving the full summons to the court. So they had that they could have protected the privacy of the people involved, specifically those people that are private citizens. And in this case, Jen Ale is a private citizen, and Melissa Nathan is a private citizen. Jed Wallace is a private citizen. Steve Sarowitz, even though he's a billionaire and even though he's like a founder of Wayfair, he is not really a public figure, so they're playing dirty, very dirty. And then what she did on her end is, instead of being served through someone knocking on her door, her attorneys accepted service for her, so she waived getting served outside of someone, a process server, and her attorney accepted it for her, so that her address wouldn't be revealed, and she'll probably argue, well, they could have had it that way, and I wouldn't have had to do this, but she didn't have to publish their addresses in the summons for that. And why I think this is getting ramped up here and why I think people are going after them so hard is because Blake's team is using, like I've said multiple times as I've been covering this, they're using violent rhetoric to describe not only Steve Sarowitz but other people in relation to this case. They have consistently referred to Steve Sarowitz. They've been quoting him as about there's going to be dead bodies. In this case, they have equated quotes to Steve as though he's a man that will murder people. And when they tried to do that in court, the judge was like, "You're not really going to do that, right?" But they keep trying to slowly hammer away to the court through the PR, through the public record, that Steve is a dangerous man that's going to kill people and sue this helpless victim, Lively, into oblivion and destroy her life for no reason. That's a dangerous PR strategy, especially when real-life people are involved. And this is what I hate about malignant narcissists, because it's not true. Steve has a right to spend as much money as he wants to defend his businesses, to defend his personal person, to defend his companies. He's worth billion, he's worth a couple billion. He's got a lot that he needs to defend here. He owns multiple businesses, and his wife owns a business too. These are not people that are just like sitting around doing nothing, and there are people that are philanthropic that have had great reputations, until Blake Lively came into the scene and said that he wants to kill people, which isn't true. Do you remember how yesterday I said that when I was being sued by Todd Chrisley, he went on a nationally syndicated podcast and he accused me of child abuse? So in a series of podcasts, just to give you like an explanation of how this translates, he did multiple different podcasts where he talked about how I was abusing my son, which I'm not, and how I, possibly CPS should be called, and, I shouldn't be talking about these things. And he went on to describe all of these things that he claimed I had done to my child, and then went on to accuse me of crimes. And so subsequently, as a result of these being aired on a nationally televised or nationally syndicated podcast, we had CPS at our house, and all of these people reporting us for child abuse that wasn't true, which wasted resources. And then we had people calling the police and reporting us and doxing us and swatting us. It's being done intentionally as a means to use litigation to further intimidate the people that are involved in their case. Todd was suing me at that time, and he was running his mouth this way to intimidate me so that I would somehow give in to him, give him what he wants, even though I had done nothing wrong and I had no reason for him. The only thing that he wanted from me was my communications with his daughter, who he then went on and tampered with as a witness and intimidated her, and she went on and committed perjury. He suborned her perjury through me, and that was used, and in his sentencing my name wasn't brought up. But I was caught up, so I know what it's like for someone to get their fans angry through court papers, through their attorneys making public statements, through their radio shows, through their friends, to falsely depict you as the problem in order not to have to discuss their own behavior, and then to harass you and to intimidate you. And what all that this is doing is it's pressuring the people getting sued into feeling to settle nicely. If you hadn't done this, we wouldn't have to litigate against you, so you should simply give in now, and they will tell you, well, we didn't do that to you. That was someone else. We can't control what goes on the internet. We can't control what happens in real life. But you can control the words you say. You can control the way you construct your responses. You can choose every single day how to figure out what you are going to say, and you can choose to lie, and you can set someone up as an unsafe psychopath, sociopath that is going to kill people like they have done to Steve Sarr once. And now people are attempting to extort him and burn down his house, right? Or you could just stick to the facts and not try to make this some kind of sinister, scary murder plot of a film. What they're doing is using language to instill fear in individuals so that they will behave, and it provokes individuals. It's much like provoking a riot. In many ways, they're expecting people to assault their people. It's another form of intimidation. It's not possible to put into words how scary it's to be on the receiving end of this sort of behavior, and how scary it's able to be for your safety, for your own sake. Having to look over your shoulders, getting hassled and stalked and intimidated, it changes your life forever. So I am so sorry for what these people are going through, and Blake's PR can waste all the time that they like trying to divert attention from what is happening. But the truth is in the pudding, I guess is what they say. And if you look at the truth, who's the one getting hurt today in real life? Is anyone showing up at Blake's house trying to set her house on fire? No, but they are trying to burn Steve's house down, who she's using dead bodies to suggest that he's going to kill individuals to make individuals believe that he's dangerous. That's what that kind of violent language accomplishes. And that's what the judge was trying to avoid. And this is what she's doing. And this is why I believe that individuals don't with these two, since they're worried that it reminds me a great deal of P. Diddy. And it makes me consider the more we look into this that they have something to hide, and we're going to keep on searching. So, what do you think about these news? Tell me in the comments below. Please help me by subscribing to the channel if you haven't subscribed, and press the bell so you never miss a video. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, besties.